Hello, we're so glad to have you join us today. I'm Luann Fulmer, and no matter what the economy is doing when you're retired, at the end of the day, there is no retirement without income. So today, Andrew is here to share how to create an income strategy to help your money last as long as you need it to in retirement. So here's the phone number as we get started. 800-848-8768. Again, 800-848-8768. You can reach out to Andrew for your SWAN study at no obligation to you. And you can find us online anytime at swan-capital.com. Andrew, hello to you. I'm so happy to be here with you again.
Hey, I'm always excited to be with you, and we have some really good topics to talk about today.
Yes, we do. First, we're talking about how to create that income strategy. And Andrew, every week our listeners hear you talk about the SWAN Sleep Study. And this is something that you designed to help retirees as they head into retirement, and even if they're already in retirement. I want you to explain how this SWAN Sleep Study works, please.
Certainly. So it starts with our sleep process, and it was named after that because what Swan Capital stands for and is all about. When I was sitting down with my dad trying to name our company over a decade ago, I said, I really just want our clients to have confidence going into retirement. I don't want them to have to worry about money. And I said, I really just hope that our goal is to help them sleep well at night. And he's like, Swan. And I said, that's perfect. and so that's how the sleep process was born. It's all about our mission statement. And the process really makes sure that every family that we come in contact with is combining their estate planning to their tax planning as well as their wealth management. And that's how Total Wealth Management was born. And that's why we have an estate planning attorney in office. We have a CPA in office, and we have a financial advisor in office, which is me. And by combining all those aspects, it really makes sure that everyone's working together on your behalf. Instead of you having to chase down your attorney to update your will and do your taxes, of course, on April 14th at the deadline, and then meeting with your financial advisor about allocations of your investments, that can all be done under one roof. And that's what the Swan Sleep process is all about.
And you offer this complimentary every week, right?
We do. It's a 1-hour complimentary visit where we sit down, and when we go through your Swan Sleep Study, what we do is basically give you a report card from A's to B's to C's. We don't go lower than C's. And what we do is we look at your tax planning, the estate planning. We look at what if you were to be sued from liability from creditors and predators? Are we protected in each of these areas? And then we give it an A. And if you get straight A's, I'll tell you, I'll say you're prepared for retirement. Your retirement preparedness is a straight A. And that's really good. It gives the clients a lot of times a permission slip to retire sometimes even earlier than they expected.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I know you've done that before, and I know that's got to be so much fun to say, no, you're good to retire like this year.
Exactly.
That'd be so fun. Well, Andrew, I know that you like to keep a pulse on the economy, and one of the trends that we've been watching here lately is inflation. We've been talking about that a lot on our show, and, Charles Payne, we've had him, excerpts of him on our show. He's a Wall Street analyst. He hosts Making Money with Charles Payne, and you met him. That is the coolest thing. You actually were on Fox Business. Tell that story again real quick.
Absolutely. I'll never forget it. It was my first time at the Fox News studio, and I just got back from a trip. I landed into New York, and I'm on set, and I thought, who's going to be the guest before me on this show? I'm already kind of nervous because, again, I'm about to go live, and you don't want to be that YouTube sensation where you just lose all of your words right when the camera turns on. And, of course, Newt Gingrich comes on right before me, and I'm like, oh, man, what shoes do I have to fill after the former Speaker of the House comes on? And then as I'm just, relishing in that huge moment, this little earpiece goes on in your ear, and it says, Andrew, turn left. Look at the camera on the left. You're about to go live in 3, 2, 1. And they're like, oh, gosh. There goes my words.
Oh, how scary. But you know what? That's pretty cool. You were following Newt Gingrich. And, that's an accomplishment right there. You were on Fox Business News.
Sure, but Charles Payne made it look so easy. Like it's just a normal day at work for him. And he was such a nice guy. So he's a really smart man, too. So.
And real quick, what did you talk about?
We talked about, stocks that people needed to keep an eye on that week. I think we talked about Chevron and some other companies that week.
Okay, awesome. Well, this week we're talking about inflation. And so Charles, we had an interview with him a couple weeks ago, and he says there might be an even bigger threat to the economy than inflation. So listen to this, Andrew.
Inflation ultimately takes care of itself, because if the price of water gets too much, I just start drinking tap water. Okay, I'll pay you $1 for it. I'll pay you $1.50, $2. Well, I may go a little further depending on the water because I'm a snob. But but the point is, we all reach a limit. So inflation ultimately cures itself. Deflation doesn't.
Oh, wow. And he says we should be mindful of deflationary forces that actually are a greater threat to the market than the economy. So here's this.
Deflation is the opposite. It's $1 today, but I think it's going to be 95 cents tomorrow. It's 95 cents tomorrow. I think it'll be 90 cents the next day. So I don't buy, and I don't buy. And because I don't buy, and none of us buy, it goes further and lower, and it goes fast. And that's what the Great Depression was all about. So I think the deflationary forces in my mind are going to be a greater threat to the stock market. I think the Federal Reserve being unable to articulate a message of calm as they ultimately have to make the transition will be a huge threat to the stock market.
Oh my gosh, deflation, Andrew. Never thought of that. So do retirees worry more about inflation or deflation?
Well, the problem is retirees have to worry about both. I think in the short term, we have to worry about unhealthy inflation. We're seeing double-digit inflation in some areas, triple-digit inflation, and that's just not normal for a fixed income investor. Someone that's relying on pensions and Social Security, they can't live in an environment of unhealthy inflation for too long. But he's exactly right. If we are in an economic decline, like a recession or even a Great Depression, deflation is very risky, because when we're a consumeristic society that stops spending, really it is a scary thing, because then it's systemic and everyone stops spending, and then the price just keeps on going down and down, and then business profits start to fall. So we should have a healthy fear of both of them, and ideally we want the sweet spot to just be a little bit of inflation.
A healthy fear of both of them, and that is what you deal with when you work with retirees. You make sure that their income is going to withstand the times no matter what's going on, right? Tell us about that and the opportunity for our listeners to call you.
I'm glad you asked. I don't think we've ever talked about this on the show. So what you want is income diversification. We talk about our investments to being diversified, and that's because we don't want to lose, more than 40% in any one given year. But we also want income diversification. See, pensions and Social Security, Luann, are great for those in between, that healthy sweet spot where inflation is not really rising that much. But rental income and equity income is very important for inflationary periods, because again, companies can raise the prices of toothpaste. You can raise the rents. You can fight against inflation if you have those asset classes. But then what if deflation strikes? You're going to want to have private equity, preferred shares in a company, annuities for those deflation periods, because typically we're in a deflation period, you're going to have an economic recession, and that equity income and the rental income may be down. And that's why it's so important to have your income diversified. So if you're listening, you say, that's me, Andrew. I have one of those. I have pensions and maybe Social Security, but I don't have all those, basically a bar stool of incomes. I don't have a very solid income strategy. I just have maybe one or two of those you've mentioned. I don't have preferred shares or private equity giving me that deflation protection. I highly encourage you to take us up on that sleep study that we talked about earlier, which is a 1-hour complimentary visit where we'll go one-on-one with you and answer all the questions that you can muster. And then basically we'll go through that Swan Sleep Study, and we'll go through each category. And one of those categories will be income planning. And I'll say, what if we have deflationary threats or inflationary threats? Will your income withstand both of those? And if not, we'll give you a B, but we'll tell you how you can improve that to make it an A. So please give us a call at 1-800-848-8768. That's 1-800-848-8768. 8768, and we'll schedule that Swan Sleep Study for you.
And remember, that is complimentary. It's something that he offers every single week just for you, because Andrew really cares about helping you with your retirement. So take that next step. Contact him. Here's the website, swan-capital.com. And we thank you so much for listening. This is What Your Money Would Say with Andrew McNair. I'm Luann Fulmer. So, Andrew, how do we get a handle on how much we need to be saving so that we can make sure our money's going to last for the next, 30, 40 years after we stop working?
You're exactly right. 30 to 40 years, life can truly be a marathon. And when we're preparing for that marathon, we have to think about the two routes that we can take with your investments. One route is that you want to accrue enough assets that you can live off the interest of your investments. Well, there's a few pros with that strategy. The first pro is that you'll never run out of principal. If you just take the interest off your investments, you'll not run out of money because you'll have the principal. The cons is in this interest rate environment where a 5-year CD may be only at 1%, you won't have a lot of income. Or the other con is you're going to have to really amass a lot of wealth to be able to live off 1 to 3% interest off your investments. So that strategy has its downfalls. The second is the spin down method. And this is for families that say it's not a high priority for me to leave a lot to my beneficiaries. And that's one of the questions that we ask, Luann, is on a scaled 1 to 10. And I look at each spouse when I do this, I'll say 10 being every breath I take. It's really important to leave money behind to my kids. In 1, on the opposite spectrum, it is not important. I hope the last check bounces because we're going to enjoy all of this. How important is it for you? And if that client and that family says, it's only like a 2 for me, Andrew, if we leave them something great because we already put them through college, well, then we may utilize the spin down method. The spin down method allows you to get more income from your investments because we're eating through some of the principal. The cons is there won't be anything left, obviously, for the beneficiaries. And so if that's not a big goal for you, well, that's not a problem. And you can't focus on what you've missed out on. So a lot of times people, if they go down the spin down method, they'll say, but I could have made 12% and kept my principal intact. You could have, but then you would have been dependent upon the stock market for all of your income. So you have to decide as a family, is protecting the principal very important for you, or just making sure that you protect your income for your lifetime important to you?
Oh, that's awesome. Now, you have something that we can get in the hands of our friends right now, how to protect your money. And I want you to tell them about that. They can go to your website.
We have a lot of great resources on our website. All you have to do is go to whatyourmoneywouldSay.com/protect. And it's a really helpful guide about how to protect your nest egg. So you want to definitely get that copy of that free guide. All you have to do is go to whatyourmoneywouldSay.com/protect.
And real quick, I'm going to give you the phone number as we head out on a break, 800-848-8768. You can call that number for a complimentary appointment with Andrew and his team. We still have a lot more to cover today, so do not go away. This is What Your Money Would Say with Andrew McNair. This is What Your Money Would Say with Andrew McNair. I'm Luann Fulmer. And at Swan Capital, they are financial professionals who focus on retirement. Andrew wants to help you enjoy your ideal retirement. And, we always talk, Andrew, about how you just don't know what you don't know. I mean, that's just how it is. And unfortunately, most of us don't know enough about Social Security. I guess a third of pre-retirees failed a basic Social Security quiz. They failed it. 20% got a D on the quiz. So that means more than half of Americans don't get Social Security and understanding how to claim it, okay, and all the rules.
But you can't blame them. It's very complicated.
Well, it is. And we all, hearsay. We hear our friends and family members doing this or that.
Joe at the water cooler says, you got to do this to follow me.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, I'm going to do that. That's a great idea. So let's just go ahead and just start with, the basics for overall retirement. Is Social Security still the cornerstone to a retirement income?
Absolutely. I think more than ever, because fewer Americans have pensions these days, and Social Security is one of the most stable incomes that household's going to need. Now, was it ever designed to be that way? No. It was only designed to be a supplement. FDR wanted it to be a supplement among other pensions and your investments. The issue is unfortunately not enough Americans are saving, and not enough Americans are working for a corporation or the government that have pensions anymore. And so it's become a larger and larger cornerstone to people's retirement. And that's really important to get right if it's going to be a cornerstone to your retirement. And luckily, Luann, I just saw one of the new Social Security statements, and it's actually visually appealing. It actually shows you how important it is to wait to take your Social Security. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing for Americans, because if we're not saving enough, if the Chinese on average are saving 20% of their income and Americans are only saving 6% of their income, well, if you don't save, well, something's got to give. If you're going to live for the now, then, well, tomorrow the future is going to be farther along for you. You might have to wait to retire till you're 67 or 70 if you don't save enough right now. And so I encourage you to encourage and tell your kids and your grandchildren to save more if they ever plan on retiring early.
And especially for our kids and our grandkids, because Social Security, it's going to likely be there, but it's not going to be the same like it is right now, correct?
No, there's going to definitely be more changes. I think there's definitely going to be increased taxes for FICA tax because they're going to have to pay more into it to keep it sustained for us.
Okay, yeah, of course, that makes sense. So, all right, tell us what you think as you've been working with retirees. What do you think their biggest misconception is about Social Security?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think the biggest misconception that I see is that spouses who take their Social Security early don't realize that it affects the benefit that they're going to receive if their spouse passes away. They think if my spouse waits to full retirement age and I take it early, that it won't affect me. If you take your Social Security before your retirement age, you're going to face a penalty and will not receive 100% of your spousal benefit. And that is, again, another way for Social Security to cut off millions and maybe billions of dollars over the long haul by giving people penalties for taking it early, even if your spouse takes it at full retirement age.
Wow. So, yeah, if you were going to, let's say your husband just goes ahead and starts claiming it early and you were, as the wife, we're going to plan on taking that. If he's not going to get the full amount is what you're saying.
Yeah, if something happens to you, your spouse is not going to get the full benefit if someone takes it early. So they really want, Social Security is directing everyone with penalties. Whatever they want to call it. They prefer the word penalties, or, you could say it's an additional tax, but they want you to take it out at full retirement age.
Which is, for a lot of people, like I am 61, almost 62. Mine is 66 and 10 months. I mean, you have to go to
You have to go based on your age when you were born, because that's going to dictate if you take it at 67 or 66 and 4 months. And we're going to go over that a little bit later in the show, so to make sure that everyone's clear of when they have to take Social Security based on their age.
There is so much confusion about Social Security. And aren't there just hundreds of ways we can claim those benefits?
There are.
Oh, my goodness.
It doesn't make it any easier. And that's why we can get D's on those tests on how to take Social Security, because it is complicated.
It is. So, all right, we do have something we can put in the hands of our listeners today. And I'm very excited about this. Tell them about it.
Absolutely. We want people to make educated decisions, especially when Social Security is $1 million asset for a couple. $1 million asset. And what's sad is, with $1 million decision, that becomes irrevocable after 12 months. If after 12 months passes, you can't go back and say, I want to change my mind. Unfortunately, with $1 million decision that is irrevocable, you know what we do with those kind of decisions? We Google it. When should I take Social Security? And that's a shame, because Social Security is such a big decision that we can't rely on people's opinions. And so that's why we're giving you a resource. And all you have to do is, to get that resource, is go to whatyourmoneywouldSay.com/security. And when you go to that website and download that guide, it will tell you about the very important things that you need to consider when deciding on Social Security. So all you have to do is go to whatyourmoneywouldSay.com/security. And when we sit down with a family for a Swan Sleep Study, that is one of the very important things that we cover. Is in income planning, we give clients an A, a B, a C. And when those families come in, we want to make sure that they've thought through their Social Security decision. Does it make sense for them to delay? Well, based on their health, maybe they need to take it early. That is a big decision. And again, if it's irrevocable after 12 months, it's always important to get a second opinion other than Joe at the water cooler's opinion about taking it early.
Exactly. So this is something you can get in your hands today and read about it later on today. Download that. Head to that website, whatyourmoneywouldSay.com/security. And then here's their phone number, too, because Andrew's also offering a chance for you to come in and visit with him in person, or you can do it over the phone. 800-848-8768. 800-848-8768. He would love to talk to you about all of your retirement concerns. So we thank you so much for listening. This is What Your Money Would Say with Andrew McNair of Swan Capital. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. So let's talk about the potential impact of taxes on our Social Security. How do you help someone reduce taxes on those benefits, Andrew?
Luann, I'm glad you brought this up because oftentimes we forget that Social Security is taxable. And when families take Social Security early, they have really good intentions when they first do it. They say, when I get those checks, I'm going to start paying off debt. And shouldn't I always pay off debt? And I say, that is a great idea. And they say, well, I'm going to take Social Security also because I need to do improvements around the house before I retire. We also want to go out and do some of those vacations while we still are healthy. And I say, all of those are great things, but you forgot one thing, and that is Social Security is taxable. And if you're still working, you're basically adding extra income to your tax return. And unfortunately, the government's going to hand you a check, and then they're also going to send you a bill too because you've been actually receiving a taxable income from them.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Very, very good. I'm glad sorry. Oh my goodness. There is so much to know, and this right here is an example of why you don't want to try to go through retirement alone. It'd be better to have a coach or what do you want to call it, a guide by your side, someone like Andrew who does this every single day and can help you with all the ins and outs, especially taxes. And tax strategies is something that they go over right in the beginning as you start off your retirement plan. So I want to go back to this Social Security quiz from Mass Mutual. 75% of the people who responded got the questions about spousal benefits wrong. So that's an area that we need to learn more about. For married couples, let's go back to what they need to know about spousal benefits, please, Andrew.
Well, the first mistake is many people think that when their spouse dies, because both spouses paid into Social Security, you would think that it's fair that you would receive both checks. But unfortunately, when your spouse dies, you're only going to receive one check, the greater the two benefits between the two of you. So that's not correct. When your spouse passes away, you're not going to receive their Social Security check continued. If your spouse has a larger benefit, you could start taking theirs, but then yours will stop. So you're only going to get one check. I always joke, Social Security is not a 2-for-1 deal. Again, if one of you pass away, you're only getting one check. Also, many people don't realize that the survivor benefit and retirement benefits are from two different pots of money. And you may be able to claim one type of benefit first, then switch to the other, the larger benefit later. And this is all the different strategies that go into Social Security planning and Social Security optimization. And that's why we work with families, especially families that have excess money in their money markets, their savings accounts, their checking accounts that are only earning like 0.2% or less. And we say, why are we only making 0.2% in checking accounts and taking Social Security early? Why don't we start to spend down some of those excess savings and delay on Social Security so that we can get a better rate of return on all of our money as a whole?
So, Andrew, this just excites me because it makes me think so many people really do need to come in and see you, which we offer that every week. Tell us what that office visit is going to be like when they come in, please.
Sure. I'll tell you what it's not first. Many times when families come in, they think it's going to be like a trip to the dentist. I've had many families, after they sit down with me, say, wow, that was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I looked perplexed. I said, what do you mean? They said, I thought it was going to be painful. I thought you were going to beat me up on how bad I was handling my finances. I thought you were going to tell me I could retire when I was age 100. They had all these fears that truly were just not real. They had anxiety about what they didn't have never went through before. Or maybe they they had an experience with a financial person before that it wasn't so glamorous. And so I always encourage you to come into the office. You don't have to worry about us locking the door, taking the key and swallowing the key, and then locking you inside and telling you about the stock of the week, the annuity of the week, the read of the week. That's not what it looks like when you sit down with us for a Swan Sleep Study. Here's what a Swan Sleep Study is. We're going to send you a 2-page questionnaire ahead of time before your visit. You'll come in, you'll see your name on a chalkboard at the front door, so you'll know you're in the right place. You'll come in, Lauren will come greet you with a menu, and she'll say, hey, we have sparkling water, we have 8 different types of coffee, what can I get for you? And then she'll let me know that you've arrived. I'll be finishing up a visit with some other family just like yourself, and when I'm done with them, I'll come greet you, we'll bring you back, we'll review that questionnaire, and basically what I do is I try to take a mile walk in your shoes. I'll say, if I was them, what would I want to accomplish based on what you've told me, and is there any ways that they can improve? We'll bring in our CPA to make sure that they review your tax returns, to make sure you're not missing any tax deductions. We'll bring in our estate planning attorney to review what legal documents you do have and make sure that if you play dead and if something happens to you, that your legal documents do everything you wanted them to do. And we do that as a complimentary 1-hour visit, all within our Swan Sleep Study. And you'll walk out of that visit more prepared and more ready for retirement. That's my belief. That's my hope and goal for when you come in, is that you feel like you're better prepared before you walked in. Now, if you're saying, Andrew, how do I start that process? It's easy. All you have to do is call our office at 1-800-848-8768 and say, hey, I would like to schedule a Swan Sleep Study with Andrew. And then someone like Lauren or Suzette will call you in our office and they'll say, hey, we have a time 2 weeks from now. So give us a call at 1-800-848-8768.
You'd be shocked to know just how much the average household is losing out on just by claiming their benefits at the wrong time. We're talking about that next with Andrew. This is What Your Money Would Say. We'll be right back. This is What Your Money Would Say. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Andrew McNair, who is president and CEO at Swan Capital in Pensacola and Mobile and Daphne, Alabama as well. And today on our show, Andrew is hoping to take away any anxiety that you might be having about retirement planning. That is why we are talking about the basics of Social Security today. CBS News reported a study from United Income that 96% of retirees are claiming their benefits at the wrong time. So, Andrew, 96% is about everybody. So, if you're walking away from tens and thousands of dollars over a lifetime, that is terrible. How much of an impact could this have?
I mean, it's worth repeating again. 96% of retirees are taking Social Security at the wrong time. And if you put that in collective dollars, I mean, it is significant amount of money. Collectively, we're losing as much as $3.4 trillion, and that's into a system that we paid for. Social Security is not an entitlement program. You paid into Social Security, so you want to maximize your return on what you've already paid into. The average that you lose out is $111,000 per household. $111,000. For some people, that's like half their house. Mm-hmm. So that's incredible. And I don't know about you, but to me, $100,000 is such a significant amount of money that I would not want to accidentally miss out on that benefit or misplace it.
I'm sitting here thinking you said collectively we're losing out on $3.4 trillion, retirees, American and retirees. What the heck are they doing with that many trillions of dollars are left over? Why are we hearing, Social Security's in trouble? They have $3.4 trillion people aren't claiming.
They got too many IOUs already in the bucket. That's the problem.
I guess. So anyway, it is such a big deal to get your Social Security right. So let's talk about some factors that we need to consider before we actually decide or start claiming those benefits.
Absolutely. And this is, I think, the biggest mistake is we will listen to Joe at the water cooler, who's in accounting, who we think and we trust because they manage the numbers at work, that they must be collecting Social Security correctly. They may even have a spreadsheet that they try to prove to you that they know what's best for you. The only problem is Joe is not you. Joe's situation is not your situation. Maybe Joe's single and you have a 5-year age difference between your spouse. That's the first thing we look at is what's the age difference between spouses. Number 2, what's the age that your parents passed away? And you say, why is that important? Well, you inherited their hereditary, their DNA, and it does matter. I mean, we can change the way we live, healthy lifestyle, but at the end of the day, hereditary, DNA does play into our health too. So we want to know how our parents did. The third thing that I look at is your health. Have you made some really wise health decisions? Maybe you don't smoke, but your parents did. Well, that skews the numbers. So we want to look at that. And then the last thing we want to look at is, do you even have enough assets to delay? If you have to take Social Security to retire, well, that doesn't leave you many options. But if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars that are sitting idle, that are not earning more than 8% rate of return, then it's something we need to do is say, maybe it does make sense to delay 1 year, 1 month even, because we forget that Social Security is a month-to-month program. That means you could say, well, actually, 67 and a half, I changed my mind. I want to take it now. You can do that. You're never set in stone until you take it and take it for 12 months. Then it's too late. It is set in stone.
I see so many of my friends retiring at 62 because they can. Now, here's what I do not know. I need to ask them, are you claiming Social Security? I'm assuming they are.
That's true.
I'm assuming they are.
Well, a lot of people, when I say, hey, you should retire 3 years sooner than they thought they could. They say, well, that's a great idea, but I don't want to take Social Security. And I say, well, that's two separate decisions. I'm telling you to retire early, but not take Social Security. And they say, they almost think like that was one unified decision.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, they're two separate decisions.
So are you saying that they could retire early and then, like you said, start spending down those other assets?
Certainly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We
Very
have
good.
many firefighters, law enforcement that they retire because they have a high-risk occupation, obviously, and they retire at the age of 55 sometimes. And what we have to do is delay them 10 years plus to get them to Social Security age. And that's why it's very important to make sure if you're a firefighter or if you're in law enforcement that you are properly funding those 403Bs, 457s to make sure that you are prepared for retirement.
That is so interesting. I have a lot of friends that are firefighters in my class, from my high school class. Now I get it. They did retire early because of their age.
It's a high risk occupation.
Yeah.
I mean, going into running into basically a burning building in your 30s is different than running into your 60s. So they have to retire earlier.
Yeah. Okay. So, Andrew, you are offering a swan sleep study to our listeners today, and this is something that you have taken people like firefighters and other people in our community who work, like you said, police officers, things like that. You walk them through this. Tell our listeners how you'll walk them through their very own sleep study to come up with a plan for their retirement.
Absolutely. What I don't want any family to feel like is that this is the first time I've ever retired and hopefully the last time I've ever retired, and that no one understands what I'm going through. You retire once in a lifetime. We help people retire every day. And a lot of times firefighters, law enforcement think, well, my situation is a little different, because I have special tax considerations of taking it earlier, pre-59 and a half. We've went through that. We understand that you may get a Social Security supplement from the city. We understand how your benefits work, and we can help you make sure that you have an income plan that starts younger, because you deserve to retire early. For the risk that you've taken in life, you should be able to retire early. And we want to make sure that even if you're not law enforcement or a firefighter, but you've worked so hard to retire early, we want to make sure that you last through that marathon of life and that your money outlives you, because that's what we all want. So give us a call at 1-800-848-8768 to go through our Swan Sleep Study, which is basically where we make sure we give you a report card of your retirement preparedness and make sure that you are prepared for retirement. And what we all want is straight A's going into retirement. It'll be the biggest test that we ever take. And so to make sure that you're prepared, all you have to do is call 1-800-848-8768.
And their website, swan-capital.com. Check them out yourself. A lot of great information there. Andrew and his team at Swan Capital can help you plan that income for your retirement. That's what Andrew's talking about. He is here for you. So thanks for listening. This is What Your Money Would Say with Andrew McNair. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. And the age in which you can receive those full retirement benefits is very confusing. It's one of the things that I think a lot of us make mistakes on. So I want to talk about, let's just go through everybody's is full retirement age. It's not the same for everyone. So
happy to do so, because that is a big misconception. Like, people say, well, I'm going to get Social Security at 66. Well, not everyone is. For people born between 1943 and 1954, you're going to get it at the age of 66. That's going to be your full retirement age. So that means at full retirement age that you can make $1 million a year, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your Social Security. If you take it at 62 and you start making a high income over maybe $19,000 a year, you're going to start actually giving Uncle Sam back those dollars. So understanding your full retirement age is very important. Now, if you were born between the ages of, or the years, I should say, of 1955 through 1959, you are all past the age 62, so you're eligible for Social Security already. But here's the schedule for when you hit full retirement age. For 1955, it's 66 and 2 months. For 1956, it's 66 and 4 months. For 1957, it's 66 and 6 months. In 1958, it's 66 and 8 months. In 1959, it's 66 and 10 months. So for anyone born in 1960 or later, your full benefit age is 67. So most of the families that we're meeting now are starting to get up there in age, and their full retirement benefit is 67.
Yeah.
Because, they were born after 1960, and they're going to have to wait till 67. And that's a shocker for a lot of people, because they say, oh, I thought it was 66. And I say, I know. It's like when they changed the yield sign from yellow to red. Everyone thought the yield sign was still yellow for years after. It's red now. And by the way, if you're driving, the yield sign is red, so yield.
Right? Exactly. Please yield. It drives me crazy. I'm like, don't come on yet. I'm right here, and I can't move over because there's a car next to me. So anyway, retirement age is different for everybody, but your benefits stop growing. They max out at age 70, right? So, I think everybody would say, well, then maybe I just need to wait until 70. Would that be the right decision?
Well, it's hard to say that for everyone you should do one thing. And that's where we get very in danger, is when people say the rule of thumb is you should do this. Well, the problem is the rule of thumb is a good guidepost, but you're not going to build your house with a rule of thumb. What you're going to do is make sure, if you're over the age of 70, what you have to consider is, do you have any assets that are performing and making a higher rate of return of delaying Social Security? So we look at a 7 to 8% return as that guidepost. If you have assets that are sitting idle in a CD, a money market, a checking account, a savings account that are only making less than 1%, but you're thinking about taking Social Security early, I would highly encourage you to get a second opinion on that. Before you make that big leap, I would not take my Social Security early if I had assets only earning 1%, because if I delayed Social Security, I can make a 6 to 7, maybe 8% return on my investments over time. And here's what I can tell you. This is one rule of thumb that is good for everyone that is listening, is if you're thinking about delaying your Social Security to age 70, your break-even point for most of America is 79. So if both of your parents, or at least one of your parents that you take after the most, has lived past well after 79, that's your break-even. So if you take Social Security at 70, by 79 you have got all your money back, and then you'd be making a profit from there on out. You'd be in the money, as we like to say, with Social Security. And you think, a lot of times families will say, well, what if I die and I don't collect Social Security? And I laugh and I say, you won't care. You'll be dead. I say, what's worse than dying is being 92 years old and saying, I wonder what I'm going to eat tonight because my Social Security hasn't kept up with inflation. I know that's all a lot to consider, but if you have questions about your Social Security and your situation, give us a call at 1-800-848-8768. That's 1-800-848-8768. I'm Andrew McNair, and I want to thank you for listening to What Your Money Would Say. Join us next week as we help you unravel the right things that you need to do for a successful retirement. Again, our phone number is 1-800-848-8768. See you next week.